Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fact or Fiction Friday. This week we have a good one. Actually, it's going to be a double feature. Um, so, like usual, they're going to be short stories. We're just going to speak about the story, and at the end, you decide if it's fact or fiction. All right, so.
Okay, so this is Brandon.
Oh, yeah, I'm Brandon.
I'm Shanae. We're really bad at introducing ourselves. We didn't do it in the last video.
Yeah,
but yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know. So Brandon's gonna tell the first story today.
All right, so this story is about a young man who wants to be an entertainer, like everybody. For this story, we'll just call our guy Franklin.
Franklin?
Yeah, Franklin.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so he was from Texas, but he moved to Hollywood, California to pursue a career in entertainment. When he got there, he needed to work to support himself while he was waiting for his big break. So he had family there in Los Angeles, California, and he began to work at the family business. Franklin later found a job as writing music for commercials.
Like jingles?
Yeah, like jingles. Like your favorite commercial?
Oh yeah, I love commercial. The song gets stuck in my head all the time. I don't know if I can actually.
You should sing it.
I don't know if I can, so we can.
All right. Throughout his time in Hollywood, he met musicians and producers who he worked with to get his name out, but he struggled to find the right fit. At some point, Franklin was even offered a record deal with a record label. However, he did not believe it was a good fit for him either. So, because he wanted to have more control over the music he writes, he went on tour with a famous group. However, he was kicked off because the little bit of fame, a little bit of singing got to his head. So he basically had to find his own way back home. So this made him have to come back to Los Angeles and again work for the family business. Throughout his time in Los Angeles, Franklin meets a woman who was also working for the family business. He liked her, and she thought he was just very annoying and kind of dumb. Well, I won't say dumb, like childish, goofy. Yeah, I'll go with that. So after a few years, he eventually began dating. Perseverance. He wore her down. They eventually got engaged, and later they got married. Franklin was offered to take over the family business as the current owners had decided to retire. He also turned this down because it's not what he wanted to do. So I know that was a short one. What do you think about this one? Was this fact or fiction? So while you're thinking about that, we'll turn over to Shanae for the next one.
All right. So the next story is quite different from that one. All right. So this story, like I said, it's quite different from the one Brandon shared, but they're both pretty short, so we'll just go with it. So it's a story of two teenage boys. One was Don, and the other one was Kevin. They're best friends, and this story takes place in Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
So on this particular night, Kevin was going to stay the night at Don's house, which is something that, with teenagers, we all do that. We did. I'm not a teenager anymore. They had plans on going spotlighting. And if you don't know what spotlighting is, it's an illegal form of hunting in which you go hunting at night. So, in the forest in the middle of the night, and you take a bright flashlight, and when you see a deer, you shine the light and you stun them. If you've ever seen, a deer, let's say a deer in headlights, they just freeze in the light, and then the other person will take the rifle and shoot them while they're frozen. Sounds horrible, I know, and that's why it is an illegal form of hunting, and that's what they were set out to do that night. So they left the house to go do this around midnight. So it's not known what happened from midnight to about 3 that morning with them, other than they were just out hunting. Around that time, around 3 a.m., there was a train coming down the tracks through this town in Arkansas. And the conductor saw something on the tracks that, made him, kind of look and see, like, what's that? Because, as the train, it's very hard to stop it. So you don't want anything to be on the tracks. So he saw what looked to him like two people laying there, and they were covered in this green tarp over them. He blew the horn. They didn't move. He tried to stop the train, but it was way too late. The momentum that train goes, it takes a while for it to come to a complete stop. So they were too close, and they ended up running over these two bodies. The conductor called the police as soon as they were able to. And so the two bodies on the train tracks were Don and Kevin. Police out on the scene discovered their mangled bodies, started to process the scene, took statements from everyone on the train, informed of exactly what happened. And the green tarp that was covering their bodies was never recovered. So they also located the rifle near the boy's body. The police ordered an autopsy, and the initial cause of death was kind of strange. They said that the cause of death was due to marijuana intoxication, and the person who did the autopsy concluded that they had to have, consumed the equivalent to 20 marijuana cigarettes.
Marijuana ain't never killed nobody.
And so, it's just strange because, that's a lot, and people don't normally consume that much at once. I mean, that's a lot. And so the families didn't agree with that, and so they ordered a second autopsy. So on the second autopsy, it was determined that the boys did have marijuana in their systems, but more like 2 marijuana cigarettes as opposed to the other one who said, they died because they took an insane amount. But they said that, yeah, they had, 2. So the second autopsy also revealed some more information. They discovered that one of the boys had what looked to be stab wounds. There was a hole in his shirt and a hole, in his body. And then the other one had injuries to his head that was kind of consistent with that rifle, him being hit in the head with that rifle. So the second autopsy came out, and now they were ruled a homicide. And it kind of goes with some of the evidence that was already presented, that they were still on the tracks when the conductor blew the horn. They were still they weren't moving. If you live in a place where there's trains, and know that when they blow that horn, you can hear it for miles.
Yeah.
It's pretty loud. It can wake you up out of your sleep, and you're not even near the train track. And these boys were right there, and they didn't move when the conductor blew the horn. So that kind of made more sense that the train hit them and they were already deceased. So this story, that's just it. I mean, they never determined anything about, who did it. And so that just brings us to the end of this tragic story. No one's ever been charged with this crime. All right. So today we did our first double feature. One was about a guy who moved to Los Angeles trying to be a singer and ended up working at his family's business. The second one was about the 2 teenage boys who were found on the train tracks in the middle of the night after spotlighting. So what do you guys think? Do you think these stories are true? Do you think they're false? Go ahead and place your guess.
right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Well, the story that I gave was fiction. It's about the show called The Jamie Foxx Show. One of my favorite shows growing up. It was such a good show to me that I even named our dog Broham because Jamie Foxx always called, well, Jimmy King in the show always called Braxton Broham. So, yep.
Yep. So that story with Jamie Foxx, it was pretty much a launching of, well, not the initial launching, but it's still Jamie Foxx as being a star. He was on shows before that, but that one was, his namesake, and it sealed him as being a star. And fun fact, there is a new Netflix show coming out starring Jamie Foxx. So they are saying like he's getting back to his roots with being on the TV show. So look out for that. His daughter's the producer. And so the second story, the one I told, The Boys on the Tracks, unfortunately, that is a fact. That really happened, and it falls into the true crime category, which is something I'm very passionate about. I love anything, true crime, trying to figure out who did it, that's really, what I like, and I entertain myself with that a lot. But that story was a cold case. There were theories about who might have killed them. Lots of theories. Some people say, maybe they were still alive while they were on the tracks, just passed out. But it seems that someone murdered them and placed their deceased bodies on the tracks.
I got questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you mix up 20 cigarettes, marijuana cigarettes versus 2?
To me,
and how does the autopsies have 2 different? They're not even close.
Yeah, they were not close. The first autopsy missed a lot of very important evidence.
How do we know his wasn't true and the other one wasn't made up?
And that could be part of the mystery behind the story. But from the research I did, it's impossible for a person in one night to consume as much marijuana as the autopsy tried to say. So they just tried to say, oh, they died because they consumed a large amount of marijuana and they lay down and fell asleep on the tracks. And then they're saying, or the marijuana killed them, but why would you? I think they would have stopped long before it had a chance to kill them.
I never heard.
So the second autopsy just seemed to be more fitting, and it discovered the wounds, deadly wounds on their bodies.
What I want to know also, how do they find all that? The wounds with a train dismembering their body like they.
I didn't want to get too graphic, but yeah, their bodies were, as I said, mangled. But yeah, they pretty much were scattered.
Yeah. So how did they find all that and say, yeah, he was stabbed? How do you know it wasn't torn with the train?
Well, you can tell.
Or I mean,
a stabbing. It'll go in a certain amount.
But how did they get all that from the train? Or the train, I think the train would have destroy a lot of evidence.
And that too. The train probably did destroy a lot of evidence. There was a theory that while they were buying the marijuana, they were killed by the drug dealer. There was a theory that there was a suspicious person in the area that day in like army fatigues and that he possibly did it. This story is something that, like, if you're like me, interested in true crime, it is one of the good ones to just dive into and hear all the different theories. But it's also sad, a lot of people don't really get all into true crime because sometimes it's very sad, especially when the case never was solved. But yeah, so guys, thanks for coming today. This was a different one.
Yep.
But still, a Fact or Fiction Friday. We thank you for tuning in every week. If you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe, like, and share our videos. Yep. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one.